I've definitely had a funny history with Yuji vs Denji as a matchup. At first it was my least wanted matchup of all time, not because I ever thought it was bad, undeniably is the best for both and probably would always be, but for the simple reason I didn't want to be sad about two boys already being forced to kill as a day job, being forced to kill one another, especially if they took the Martian Zero Hunter route. Now, what we got with this episode is something I audibly got excited watching, if you've seen my reaction, and I do generally think it has some great elements, including the best Chainsaw Man representation in that battle so far, but also a little something here and there that sadly hold back this episode from being super duper awesome. So I guess just awesome will do. Hey, it's not like every single Death Battle episode can brag about that title, especially the previous one. Who said that? I mean, let's kickstart this review. Or kickback, I guess. Yuji's breakdown is kinda funny in a sense, as I kinda like it less and less the more it goes on, which is the exact opposite for Denji's. While it took me an embarrassing amount of time to realize the whole "he was strong" thingy being bookended at the start and the end of the breakdown, and while we do have small pearls like both him and Denji liking themes and such, does anyone remember that it's meant to be a My Hero Academia meme? Or the only things he dislikes being irredeemably bad things, because he's that much of a pure-hearted boy? I don't really think this analysis conveys Yuji's nature as a pure-hearted boy. Like, they do go over his strength, his fighting styles, how many black flashes he can throw in a row, how much horror he farms as a cardboard cutout in the JJK sequel series, and sure, I appreciate monologues about strength as much as anyone, the brutal party was on and fulfilling his grandfather's wishes, that's all great, but they captured the Yuji's compassion so well in Maito's breakdown that here is just absent by comparison. Ironically, it matches a lot of the complaints I've heard about Gojo's analysis in season 10. You kinda get Yuji the fighter over Yuji the character. Sure, the editing is nothing short of spectacular, but really guys, zero mention of Nobara, Todo, Chozo or pre-possession Megumi? Kind of a wasted opportunity, not gonna lie. Denji's breakdown is, again, the exact opposite in every facet. Sure, it starts off with an unneeded double joke about a boy being forced to sell body parts to get by. Maybe let's not joke about that battle. But once you get past that, the quick introduction to how devils work, making Pochita's deal emotionally resonate as an act of love and a superhero origin story, Makima not even bothering to get a title card before even getting into why she doesn't deserve one, the whole not getting late but killing devils joke, it's all banger after banger after banger. They include small notes for fans such as myself, like Denji's horny fueled semi-teleportation feat, his crazy regen feat, the roundup of Denji's friends and family, unlike a certain someone, or the way they managed to keep the aura of Makima's plan going in full motion, despite us already going over it 3 times I guess now. Speaking of, man did they manage to convey the threat Chainsaw Devil Pochita poses with just the right images and sound cues. Small section is one of the funniest parts in a Death Battle breakdown in like ever. The patriotic sounding music in the background, the pure contrast between that and the bloodshed she wishes to spread, followed by Denji's deeply unamused reaction, is just great. I hope she gets a breakdown just as bonkers by the time she gets to turn Sukuna into origami. Seriously though, 10 out of 10 introduction to Yoru before even getting to the insanity she brings into Chainsaw Man Part 2. And luckily, Denji is scaling too. Watching reaction channels discover how wild Chainsaw Man gets thanks to Yoru, with living statues of liberty, moon flags and Horagon swords ahoy, it was just a major highlight for me. The whole bit about Denji's disastrous luck with woman, yeah, it's as funny as it is accurate, but once you get over how crazy Denji defeated Santa Claus sounds out of context, this is what Chainsaw Man Santa Claus looks like by the way. We get into one of the best and most character accurate endings I've ever seen in a Death Battle breakdown. Like season 10 material. We cut from the zany power scaling lingo to a soft, gentle piano as we get into Pochita's sacrifice in an attempt to give Denji a new chance at life, given how much being Chainsaw Man ruined his previous one. The callback from the first line, "Life sucks and then you die," actually works this time, mainly due to the better delivery. This breakdown was overall a great summary of part 1 and 2, especially given the available time, how they managed to integrate the words "life worth living," a famous track title for Yuji vs Denji, And yeah, I teared up, I'm not gonna deny it, because they managed to summarize everything I love about Denji's ending in part 2, even as controversial and over-memed as it is. But in general, and even considering how that battle handles JJK at their best, aka Maito's breakdown, this episode made me realize that I probably would have always been a Chainsaw Man type of guy more than a JJK type of guy, for a very simple reason. Chainsaw Man is campy. Campy is a word that I, as a non-native English speaker, mostly associated with negative things, like, you know, Two-Face performance in Batman Forever, but I recently found out that campy doesn't just mean something so exaggeratedly corny that it's bad, but something that is just exaggerated, period. And something these breakdowns highlight is that Chainsaw Man is campy to the core, compared to the much more philosophical and power-scaly JJK. So to me, and barring a few exceptions, the sad parts in Chainsaw Man are sadder, the funny parts are funnier, the awesome parts are awesomer, and yes, the power scaling numbers do get wilder, because this series is as vibes over numbers as you can get in terms of power scaling. This gets extremely ironic once you remember how much Chainsaw Man Part 1 realized just how much Part 1 is a much more straightforward shonen compared to Part 2. And funnily enough, both Chainsaw Man losses up until this point were from Part 1 characters. Denji's, on the other hand, first things first, I gotta apologize to Dead Battle storyboarder Universal 4, who actually commented under my videos a few times, not to brag or anything, for referring to his cameo as, quote, Denji wooing over a woman in my reaction video. I don't know, I just used to Denji canonically never worrying about male collateral damage. It just came off as a natural assumption that this character was an Afro lady. Still though, the darkly comedic nature of Yuji telling the upper half of someone that they're gonna be fine, as if it was a dark parody of Invincible or something, which was preceded by his plan of taking down Bad Devil, apparently by an inside-out tactic, are both fantastic ways to introduce Denji in my eyes. And then there's Yuji. Okay, so while I am happy that this fight didn't start over a dropped hamburger, and I did see mixed reception regarding his characterization, not that he's unrecognizable, just a bit off. This line right here is the only line in this entire fight I've seen most Yuji fans agree that it's rather out of character and actually sounds more like something Denji would say more than anything. And low-key, I gotta agree. From my understanding, if Yuji wants to kick your ass, he's either gonna stay frighteningly quiet or passionately loud. Now that is, yeah, that's what I thought, tone of voice, so yeah. Still though, they got the quote-unquote worst pieces of characterization out of the way, so now let's just get it. I love Denji immediately clocking how, and I don't mean this in an offensive way, standard shonen protag Yuji is compared to him. So when he announces an attack that ends with a world technique, Yuji naturally covers his most vital areas, to his knowledge. I'm not certain whether I love Denji, what I love more between Denji doing this the first time, the laugh he does immediately afterwards, seriously the animation and the vocal performances are that's just Denji, man, I don't know what to say. Or the fact that he does it again with an impact frame to boot. And yet, my absolute highlight of this fight is this entire sequence right here, in which, after some impeccable weave from both Yuji and Denji, from Yuji and Denji regenerating with the same chain sound effect as Makina, interesting, we get a flawless dance of creativity, hype and choreography. Denji uses superior speed to weave Yuji's punch, ducks under it, slices it off, squeezes a comically large amount of blood from his arm like Gatorade, uses the same arm to swing Bada Yuji to Kingdom Come, only for Yuji to RCT heal himself, giving Denji enough time to literally run circles around him in more ways than one. Then Yuji blasts the debris, catches Denji's chains, and pulls him into a separating soul divergent fist, which Spider-Verse jerks Denji away from Pochita. Couple all that with Infernal Combustion rocking hard in the background and you're left with an impeccable sequence no matter how you slice it. This type of sequence is what sets apart a good fight from a great fight in my eyes. You know, it actually took me this episode to realize that they both have slicey dicey powers. I don't know, it just comes off as more obvious to associate that with Denji for obvious reasons, namely this guy. As far as answering the question of how do you vocalize Chainsaw Devil Pochita noises goes, I'd say they got pretty spot on. The way he immediately blitzes Yuji is very manga accurate, even though the piercing blood beams do look a bit weird here. But for all the little screen time he gets, man, Pochita feels like a problem. Blasting through buildings like a Kryptonian, conveying how much of a regenerative menace he is. I don't know, Yuji fighting this gives me the same vibes as Miles fighting Insomniac Venom or something. Check out this video for my thoughts on how they adapted Yuji's domain. Then come back here to like and subscribe. Holy return to form for Dead Battle Tracks, Batman. This track art is amazing. I mean, look at it. It's basically Yuji holding Denji's chainsaw hybrid head, as if Denji just got decapitated and Yuji is using him to fight off zombie hordes while searching for his body or something. The guide bars are surrounded by cursed energy in the shape of chains. And of course, due to this series, there's blood and black flashes everywhere. Just brilliant. The title, as odd as it sounds, is actually a play on the term internal combustion, a type of energy production process mostly commonly used in chainsaws, which, combined with the infernal part, kinda makes this title very Chainsaw Man adjacent. Even though you could make the argument about the whole energy process thingy being a reference to cursed energy, but let's be real, both the title and the lyrics are more Denji adjacent than Yuji adjacent, as amazing as the track and cover art themselves are. And I do recognize some JJK strings here and there between the heavy metal. Do I still love the part that goes "All the code and only knows your 2 mouths, 1 face, 1 body, 1 more"? Yes, and I can see that referencing both Sukuna or Pochita, as they're both associated with mouths, but the only straightforwardly JJK line I could find there was "A death sentence and a dying wish, the end that fed me dying," and something about not dying alone. So yeah, the track is amazing, captured both characters at once in a more cohesive way, like say the translated lyrics of Meito vs Shigaraki. Regarding the narrative themes and such, I'm gonna kindly take a page from TV Tropes and say this matchup was a rare technician versus performer. Yuji had a greater battle experience and literal martial art mastery up his sleeve, while Denji's improv skills and crazy tactics during combat made him a wildcard in every sense of the term. Granted, this played more into the animation than the debate per se, but still, it still fits. If it fits, it sits. Anywho, I do love how much this final confrontation kept me guessing between who would come up on top or not. First it's Yuji dismantling Denji seemingly beyond what his regeneration can factor in, then Denji pulls the domain fake out, then Yuji gets some sweet payback for the second nut punch via Black Flash. Then he goes on a full-on "standing here, I realize", then it's seemingly evenly matched, and this is probably my second favorite bit in this episode. Yuji had zero idea of what a domain expansion is, and he probably would struggle to grasp it if you do a full evening long explanation, but he does understand that it's something Yuji sees as important enough to change the tide, and he acts accordingly. And to all JJK fans throwing themselves backwards, swearing that Yuji will never be caught by this stuff and yada yada, look, granted, I am the Chainsaw Man type of guy, not the JJK guy, but I can fully buy Yuji being taken aback by someone with seemingly no cursed energy, or at least a weird variant in this universe, suddenly bursting a domain expansion inside his domain expansion. I also love Denji praising both his and Pochita's intelligence for this fake out. Alright, I stalled for long enough, let's be honest here. No amount of Chainsaw Man glazing either towards the series or this animation will change the fact that Yuji kinda gets shafted in comparison to Denji for this whole episode. And while I disagree about Yuji's soul punches being enough to put Denji and Pochita's lives at risk, especially since how much soul damage does one blow have? Why would they allow themselves to be hit given the speed gap? But like, even with that in mind, don't have Denji just eating 17 black flashes like they were potato chips, man. It just makes for a very uneven presentation in the animation that even Bakugo vs Razor managed to avoid. Bakugo vs Razor. Yes, Yuji stopping Chainsaw Man teeth with his bare freaking hands is cool as fuck, but the black flash doesn't hold as midget of a candle next to the one performed by Mahito in either visuals or sound design. And that just hurts to say. The more I think about it, the more I realize how much Denji's fast-paced Wolverine-esque fighting style and personality just naturally fit more into a death battle animation compared to Yuji's demeanor, who usually shines when things slow down, which may explain why we don't get much of the two through Yuji. The number one thing I always dreaded about this fight becoming an episode was the idea of Yuji realizing the sheer tragedy of Denji's life as he's about to either murder or get murdered by him, while reading his soul via the main expansion or something. The episode we got made for a much more entertaining experience than the very somber thumbnail I had ready for my reaction, but it also resulted in a flatter portrayal of Yuji's character by comparison, and that's a shame. I don't mind Denji not blinking after murdering a stranger, being desensitized to violence is kinda his whole thing, but Yuji is kinda the exact opposite, and lack of focus on this compassionate side of him in the breakdown kinda bled into the fight animation. For this fight, I didn't really get Yuji all life is sacred Itadori, but Yuji, well, I'm a sorcerer, and I know how to fight, and this is my technique, and I'm gonna beat your ass, Itadori. Which isn't a mischaracterization, but it is only half the story. They basically applied this mental to his characterization, in a way that not even his last words being about appreciating the bond between a curse/devil, surely thinking about either Sukuna or Chozo. Not even these last words can truly make up for his less than perfect characterization. I guess that I was so scared that I'm gonna mess up Denji's character, I kinda took it for granted that Yuji was gonna be safe. But if the writing process for this battle was a video game skill tree, I think it's evident who they placed more skill points on. I did interact with Denji's voice actor on Twitter, by the way. I think both voice actors did a great job, but that guy is Denji, like, was basically Denji 1-to-1. The debate for this matchup, however, was always seen as a 50-50, and does the breakdown conclusion reflect that? So, did Chainsaw Devil Pochita actually quote-unquote tank Yoru's Oregon Sword? Not in the traditional usage of the term. Does that justify the amount of fucking stupid memes I've seen trying to discredit Denji and Pochita's insane endurance and regeneration factor that allowed them to survive that anyway? Absolutely fucking not. I'm sorry, it's been 4 weeks, but I'm not gonna tolerate slander nor libel regarding Denji's physical stats just because Yuji fans got tricked into thinking that aura and flashiness are somehow the same as actual attack potency. Actually, I could make a whole video about that topic now that I think about it. One thing I will agree with, however, when it comes to criticisms, and this comes from a Reddit comment I saw on Reddit, is that speed should have been saved for last. Yes, I love the Oregon level joke as much as everyone did, especially the fact that Weeds can be heard laughing while going over it. But that battle's habit of saving the big funny number for last kinda downplays how much Denji's superior speed changes this matchup. Like, think about it. Denji's superior skill? Useless if he gets statue blitzed. His spiritual / slicey dicey attacks? Useless if they can land. Attack potency? Let's be adults here. The old Dabura thing, yes, it is an anti-feat, and given how there's a whole episode I refuse to talk about because of its reliance on anti-feats, it would be weird for me to not bring it up. Like, I get your frustration, you're frustrated if you're a JJK power scaler, but like, even ignoring this, what else do you have? What else does Yuji have that compares? Like, Kashimo's lightning? I think that battle just wanted to further strengthen the case on Denji being faster, with a rare instance of a verse actually giving us an in-universe limit. This is very different from calling lightning electricity, or saying that Mega Man's stupidity should play a factor, but the stupidity of the minions fucking should. I will say though, I appreciate that they went over the nuance of Denji's out-of-the-box battle IQ not being quite the same as Yuji's actual training and experience. And I do like the tying their abilities, because that's low-key what this matchup was always gonna come down to. Good god though, man, there were JJK fans that took Nutshot seriously. Like, this is low-key another reason why I'm a Chainsaw Man guy over a JJK guy. Like, we just don't take things so fucking seriously. My god, it's comedy guys, it's a joke. To wrap it all up, I love that the win screen announces Denji as the Chainsaw Man, rather than just the winner is Denji or the winner is Chainsaw Man. You know, it's a subtle way to give the win to both Denji and the dog in him. Overall, in a very roundabout way, the things that held back this episode from becoming everything I dreaded are also the same things that held it back from being great in a way that best represents both characters. That's a shame, but it's still a 9 out of 10 episode in my eyes, so all is well and good. I'm honestly okay with Chainsaw Man taking a big long break from that battle now, but until then, doing also other, I do the same. Uncle Krypton, hoping I made your day slightly better.